Grill, where we get to talk about all things Black Diamond Cup, AFL, HCC. Why? Just because we love it. We can't get enough of it. And last week was no exception. Footy was great. And we're going to have another bumper week this week, the unlucky round 13. So it's going to be unlucky for some. But I'm joined with my two cohorts in Mr. Ashborg and Mr. Shane Darwin. Welcome, gents. Shane's on school holidays or adult holidays or something. So
well, it's
doing a bit of a solid tonight, aren't you?
Yeah, it's one of the benefits, I suppose, Chop. If there can be a benefit I was in between jobs, shall we say, after redundancy a couple of weeks ago. So I'm taking a bit of a long weekend before I start my new role after next weekend. So this is my last. Oh, as I press the wrong button there, my last chance to get a little bit of a break in. So.
Well, let's make it clear. You're not redundant from Bar TV.
Oh,
so
no,
you're
not
still
from
part
Bar
of the
TV,
broadcast crew.
Still part of the broadcast crew and loving that side of things. And I'm going to miss you boys this weekend down at Killarney Vale too. But I'll be dialed in. I'll be watching all the action on Bar TV on the app. So don't worry about that.
Yeah, it should be a good day of footy, that's for sure. How are you, Mr. Borg?
Yeah, pretty well, mate. Big first week back at work at school. So it's great to be on the podcast tonight. Excited for tomorrow's games at Killarney Vale. It's been an interesting week, that's for sure. Great weather.
Does this footy stuff give you a welcome reprieve from the week-to-week stuff, mate, does it? Or do they balance each other out?
No, I think the footy stuff's well and above what I get at work, that's for sure.
Yeah, beautiful.
A lot more fun.
Yeah, we do love it. And it seems as the weeks go on, we tend to love it a little more as we start to get towards the business end of the season. And, of course, round 12, we got out of the way on the weekend after doing round 6 the week before, which is a little odd. But round 12, we're only 5 weeks away from finals, fellas. Yeah, exciting's that. It
is very exciting. I came home after being at Max Macmahon last weekend, and I sat there on the couch on Saturday night, and I got the app out, and I'm going 5 games to go, and I'm looking at everyone's draw, going, oh yeah, where's this going to go? Where's this going to go? And
it's better than doom scrolling. Sorry, go on.
It's
Sorry,
true. I was gonna say, I think our top 3 is definitely locked in, but that 4th spot for the men's cup. Yeah, listen, don't get me wrong. The Marlins are in the box seat, but there's mathematical chances still for certainly for Cardiff, Killarney Vale, and obviously Nelson Bay to still push their way in to make that 4th spot. Nelson Bay being in the box seat, but yeah, it is exciting when you start to hit that time of the season where you can start to do those sums and this could be what we're going to see.
And not completely unlikely. I did the same thing. You doing the same thing during the week, Ash? Like I'm sitting there Normally I just doom scroll for 3 or 4 hours when I've got spare time, which is not good. But now I'm doing mathematical equations, which I'm not good at anyway, and I'm probably incorrect. But I was actually quite surprised. I thought our top 4 might have been absolutely set by last week's results, even possibly the weeks before. But there's not an outside chance that Killarney Vale could come from nowhere and find a spot into the finals, hey?
Yeah, look, both Killarney Vale, Cardiff, and obviously Nelson Bay. I mean, your favourites are Nelson Bay by a fair way. If they win this weekend and Cardiff don't, then I reckon it might be over for Cardiff, and I dare say the same if Killarney Vale lose. But they're 2-3 quite unlikely results. It'll be decided this weekend, won't it? If those sides lose, it's virtually decided that they won't make finals. Is that all? Cardiff and Killarney Vale, at least, anyway. Yeah, if Killarney Vale, Cardiff lose and Nelson Bay beat Newcastle City this weekend, it's pretty much set up. The top 4 is pretty much done.
But obviously, going by what the season has shown us so far, their hopes are all going to still be alive after this week. Am I right in saying that?
That's right. I think Cardiff have 3 games.
If it goes the way.
Yeah, I think Cardiff have 3 games where they're playing either the entrance Bateau Bay or Maitland. And so that would be of advantage to them, whereas Nelson Bay have to play the top 3. And so that obviously you'd almost chalk those at least 2 of those 3 as a loss, with obviously Warners Bay. You got Warners Bay, Terrigal Avoca and Newcastle City. They're all as good as one another, really. And there's it's hard to separate the 3 of them. And Nelson Bay, I think they're just a little bit off the pace. But if they can jag a win against either one of those 3 sides, they're pretty much put 1 foot in the door.
We've seen already through the course of the year, boys, haven't we? That it all comes down to availabilities and the 22 that they put on the side. All of those clubs have their very best 22, but without one or two or three of the instrumental players in that 22, they become vulnerable, don't they? So if they can't put their strongest field team on the paddock for each of the finals rounds, then it really does open up the door for that fourth side as well to potentially come in, whoever that might be. Do you guys remember me about 4 weeks ago? I think I said, when I saw when I was at by my lonesome out at Passage Road Oval, and I called the game between Maitland and the entrance Bateau Bay, which was a nail biter in the end, but Maitland got up. That those two sides, although their finals campaign's probably out of reach at that point, will play a part in the final makeup of the final four. So that looms like a very real possibility for some of these clubs that come up against them, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, but only if they get the win, I suppose. And
That's what I mean.
We haven't seen them take a scalp yet. So, obviously tomorrow is we get the chance to see the entrance Bateau Bay again down at Adelaide Street. That's our broadcast match of the round. So maybe they kick Killarney Vale out, but until now we haven't seen that Maitland or the entrance Bateau Bay get that big scalp to shape the finals. But you're right, Corey, they do hold the key, because if Cardiff are playing those two teams 3 times, and I think I worked out Nelson Bay were playing the teams below them at least twice. So if they get one of those upsets, that will have some shaping for
even losses. They want to get good, healthy wins against those sides if they aren't able to get up. I'm talking about the entrance Bateau Bay and Maitland. They want to have significant wins against them for percentage. But I think they're capable of taking those scalps, and now's the time for those emerging clubs to do that. You take a scalp, break someone's heart, they got something to crow about in the off season. Good reason to party on Mad Monday.
Now, gentlemen, I have just completely come and hijacked the show by starting to talk about my finals race already, and we've already drifted off topic. I'm gonna actually love you and leave you. It is my darling wife's birthday today, and we're having a bit of a family thing for her. So,
happy birthday, Mrs. Darwin.
Happy birthday,
I don't think she watches the show, just quietly, but I'm going to give Sally a shout out and wish her a happy birthday, and I'm going to go out there and have a glass of something with her. So I'm going to leave you two boys to talk footy. Fantastic. Good luck with the call tomorrow, and I'll be back again next week for sure.
May you gain many brownie points with your efforts tonight, mate.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it's it, mate. See you in a week.
See you, Shane. So just you and me tomorrow, Mr. Borg?
Yeah, just the two of us, mate. I've got no idea who's on camera tomorrow.
Right.
And we'll just go with what we have, mate. I think it's going to be a very good day at Killarney Vale. We're probably the best, if not the best, the second best facilities in the comp. So
we do love calling it at Adelaide Street, don't we? We love it there, and they're very hospitable, the Killarney Vale Football Club. I noticed we always have somebody, one of the great volunteers there, popping their heads in and asking if we need a drink and if we're all well looked after, and we've got a great vantage point. There's no doubt. So I do enjoy going to Adelaide Street Oval, and especially because it's so close. It's close to home for me.
Good close. So it's about an hour and a quarter from mine, so it's not too bad. It's it's a good drive down the highway. Just hope there's no indiscriminate trucks like there have been on the M1 this week.
Been
some shockers this week.
Oh gosh, yep. So where do we start tonight, Ash?
Mate, we review the cup for the women's and then go through what the round looks like for the women's comp. It's a little bit of a worry so far, but we build hope in going into the finals when you see the better sides play each other and the lesser sides get an opportunity for a win. But Warners Bay last week, they worked hard. They played against Cardiff Chop, but 157-1 probably dictates how good Cardiff are at this point. Yeah. Charlotte Day got nine big goals. Taylor Smith 4. Maddie Marsh and Matisse Murray got 3. And just wanted to say congratulations to Madison Marsh, Maddie, who lives out at Madawi there, plays for Cardiff, for being picked in the GWS Academy team this weekend in the under-17. So it's great effort for her.
Terrific. Yeah, that's great work. And another bag rate on the rating party for the women's there with Charlotte Day. I think that's her 3rd bag now.
Yeah, 2 nines.
That's epic, isn't it?
Massive effort. Huge goal kicker. And look, I had her in my team of the year. She is a strong forward. Really strong.
I think I had her in the back line. I might have to review that.
Swing player.
That's good. Epic. Good on her.
Great player. So, look, Killarney Vale, went to Hilton Mall last weekend and put 113 on Terrigal Avoca, who didn't score. Again, I mean, we had them the week before, and they struggled to score that week. Sasha Edwards got another bag for the sack there. Chop, Jackie Green got 3, Mia Wilson got 3, and for Terrigal Avoca, Bootstrap, Tamara Nicholas and Katrin Dolanley were the best for them, but they weren't in the team last week. The week before, and they still got beat to 0. So, it just goes to show you can put a better team on the park, but the difference is just huge.
Yeah, that says a lot, doesn't it? I mean, we won't talk too much about it tonight because we've done plenty of that over the recent weeks. But yeah, it does say a lot, doesn't it? You put 3 representative players into that side, and they still didn't really make a dent on the final deficit, unfortunately. So, a bit of work to do there for the Panthers in the off season, no doubt. But Carnival's swimming along.
Yeah, a little bit going on there. But Newcastle City put 138 on the entrance, but obeyed a 0. And the highlight of the game, or 2 highlights. One was Isabella Sullivan getting best on ground and kicking 7 goals for another bag raider, and a 10-goal second quarter to Newcastle City. They're starting to put the foot down, City. It doesn't matter who they're playing. They're not showing a lot of mercy at the moment.
What I love is bags in every game. Bag. But I guess when there's that much of a discrepancy between the sides, you're going to expect individuals to be kicking big tallies, aren't you? So it's become a bit of a regular thing. Unfortunately for the sides getting beaten, very fortunate for the sides that are winning. So it's going to be an epic final series. I guess all we can say, we look forward to the final series and the 3 sides, and good luck to the 4th side that does end up making it there. I don't know what the race is looking like at the moment, but good luck to all those sides when they get into the finals. But look forward to seeing those 3 Titans duke it out once the finals come, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, it seems to be a race in 2 at the moment with a 3rd place looking at playing into a prelim and a 4th place just happy to be there in the final. So Cardiff and Newcastle City are 90% on the match ratio, 1st and 2nd. Killarney Vale 63%, and the entrance Bateau Bay are 4th with a losing percentage of 37%. So they're actually losing more games than they've won, and they're 4th. Warners Bay are probably the only team that can make it at 27%. Terrigal Avoca, I don't think I think their season can be pretty much struck through at 20%, and Singleton are just hoping to get another win on the board. Sadly for them this weekend, Chop, the Roosterettes have had to forfeit this weekend against Newcastle City. So real shame to them. They've been getting a side on the park each week, but obviously this week's been too much.
Yeah, unfortunately, we are getting to that time of the year too, mate. Unfortunately, we're when your season's done and dusted and you've got mothballs with 5 games to go, it does get harder and harder for clubs to pull those sides together. You can't blame players for losing a little bit of interest at this stage of the year, when they're up against big, likely a big score against them. So that's the challenge, I think, for the league and the clubs, especially in the bottom 4, to make sure they can keep it together to the end of the year.
Yeah, it is at the moment. And the goal kicking race, Chop, Mia Wilson has an 8-goal lead on Charlotte Davey. 37 plays 29, and Kate Hanley is in 3rd spot. I think Mia Wilson still would be the favourite, although Charlotte Day's proven she can kick goals in big numbers.
Yep. Well, look, they've got the spearheads from the 3 big clubs there sitting 1, 2 and 3, haven't they? So 12 goals in 3 games. It might be a long stretch for Kate Hanley, but it just probably depends on how many times they come up against the lower half of the ladder between now and the end of the year, I think, because they all seem to be able to kick a bag when they play against those sides. So, or bag and then some. No one's got 10 goals for the year yet. So it'll be interesting to see whether we see one of those before the end of the year. But I've got to say, actually, just on note of kicking bags, there has been 16 individual bag kickers in the men's, and the women are very fast. Well, not so many individual ones, but the number of bags, I think 26 bags in the men's game competition so far this year. And I think the girls aren't too far behind with that. So huge score kicking capacity, isn't it?
Yeah, massive. Especially, like you said, when you got the big discrepancies, you can target one player to kick a lot of goals. So, I think with the women's, that's that competition is a little bit in trouble at the moment in terms of the results. But you've just got to wait and see until the better games come out. The discrepancy is big. We know that. There's still some sides are still building, and we just have to keep backing them in and keep wishing them all the best. I think, for those sides, we just got to keep making sure that they're viable. And I think that's a club and a league job. That's not something we do.
Yeah, I was going to.
We back them in.
Without playing devil's advocate, and we won't talk about it too long, is this an area, is it just an anomaly at the moment, Ash, or is this an area that needs a lot of focus and a lot of cooperative input from clubs and the league at the moment to make sure that it's sustainable beyond 2025?
Oh, I think the comp's sustainable. I'm just wondering what it would look like next year. There's a lot of clubs now, and some women's teams, some women's clubs have got two sides in it now. So you've got to continue to have a Black Diamond Cup and a plate. Otherwise, you've got nowhere for women to play, and you'll end up with Newcastle City versus Newcastle City versus Killarney Vale versus Cardiff and a Cardiff. So you may, you risk doing that, and you don't want to do that. I don't think you want to do that in the premier competition in the Black Diamond AFL Hunter Central Coast comp. So that's just my view. Whether the comp looks like 7 teams next year or whether it looks like 6, you just don't know. But the other 3, the 4 teams below City, Cardiff and Killarney Vale, they've got a lot of catching up to do, sadly.
Yep. Yeah, definitely an area that needs some thought and probably a good brainstorming and some innovative ideas, I think, to try and make sure that we keep the girls there and interested in playing as much as we possibly can, because, it's a tough gig. But I'm sure we'll work it out. We're a resilient mob here in the AFL HCC, aren't we?
Yeah, look, and they've got the right people in place to get the job done. So it's great.
That's true. I think Clubland itself's in really good shape, and of course our admin at the league are doing a great job
too. They're doing really well. So Black Diamond Cup Women's next week, round 13. Unfortunately, as I said before, Singleton have already forfeited to Newcastle City, so they take the win with them and increase their win ratio. Congratulations to Tegan McNiff from Newcastle, who played her 50th game last week. And one thing I do have to say about that is 2 forfeits in 3 weeks in the top comp. It's not a good look, but obviously there are clubs that have got some things they need to sort out. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt. I'm sure it'll be something in the off season. So, are you going to do some predictions on the 2 games that are going ahead?
Absolutely, mate. Cardiff versus Terrigal Avoca. Well, you can see my predictions at 7:30. I think it is on my little Instagram page. I put a little video up today, but something to do while I was at lunch. Cardiff versus Terrigal Avoca, look, very simply, Cardiff too strong, should win comfortably. I think Cardiff will win by more than 10 goals. Congratulations to 3 Cardiff players this weekend who notch up milestones. 2 Cardiff players will notch up 100 games, Emma Heidke and Eva McIntyre. That's a huge effort for the women's game.
Wow.
And 50 games to Brittany Quinn. So congratulations to those girls. It's a wonderful achievement to get any milestone in any brand of football, and 100 games for them is fantastic, mate.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And dare I say it, who will kick the bag for the 2 top sides for Cardiff this week? Is Charlotte Day got another one? Will she edge closer to Mia Wilson?
Well,
it's going to be a Western style shootout a little bit between these 2, I think. Poor old Kate Handley is going to drop off the pace a little bit, I think, with the
she misses out. Yeah, she doesn't get a chance to kick a goal this weekend, which is a real shame about what forfeits do. There's 3 2-on-1 votes missing for players for City that could be there. Halverson, who I think in a game out of all the games we've covered this year and all the women's games we've covered, and I've watched pretty much all of them back, she's been the best player in the competition this year by far. And we say that about her every year, but she seems to have taken her game to another level in the middle, being played in the middle by Brett Godfrey.
Yeah, she's an absolute Valkyrie, that's for sure. She's got a surname like a Valkyrie too, hasn't she? That's really like
watching her play, and her humility is just out of this world. Yeah. She's a wonderful human being to boot. So Cardiff, Terrigal Avoca, I reckon Cardiff by 10 goals plus. Killarney Vale versus the entrance Bateau Bay's our game chop at 12:30. Last weekend, Georgia Butler for Killarney Vale played her 100th game. So congratulations to the bomber there, Georgia Butler. They're going to be too strong, Killarney Vale, but look, Scott Gray's girls are going to go as hard as they can for as long as they can chop. He showed me a board, and I put it in our little group chat this week, about all the girls that have been struck down with either illness or injuries, and girls that are in that have got season-ending injuries, and it comes up to about 12 girls. Like
Wow.
that. I know they've got two sides, but that is beyond decimated. And, you're doing well. I think the entrance Batter Bay doing well to get two teams on the park every week.
Oh, that's for sure. That's massive. That's definitely all your surplus of players used up. That's for sure.
Yeah.
When you're putting two sides. And they're still so new to the top-tier competition too. So best of luck to the Bay Blues girls. They are a good bunch of girls out there, and they'll give it a red-hot crack. There's no doubt.
Yeah,
They won't be able to... They probably won't make too much of a dent on Killarney Vale because, as we said, those three sides are marching towards finals once again, and it'll be a showdown between those three. So we're going to see some of their best footy over the next few weeks, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. We might try and get into the Black Diamond Cup men's, mate, from last weekend. Warners Bay. Wow, 13-point difference at quarter time, 25 points at halftime, and after halftime, Warners Bay went ballistic, 9 goals to 2, Corey, to defeat Cardiff 16 goals, 5-101 to Cardiff 5-7-37. The Big Dig put another bag in the sack with 7 goals. Max Collins, I know Shane, if he's probably not hearing this, but Max Collins, the president of the Max Collins fan club, be happy with the 3. And Charlie Baker got 2 goals for Cardiff. Usual suspects best on ground for both sides. Oscar Smythe for Cardiff and Seb Thomas for Warners Bay. That's a massive win, and I reckon it almost. I think if Cardiff already had a nail in the coffin, a second one went in on the weekend.
Yeah, we started to see almost something like along the lines of the women's results, didn't we, with some of the games last week? Again, we are getting to the business end of the competition, and those sides, the cream start to rise to the top, don't they? And it'd be very, very pleasing for Nath Harkness that his boys just continue to do that. He's fairly humble when it comes to talking about the results too. And, he was, as much as he's very positive and very supportive of his players, I think he also was humble in saying, he knows Cardiff are just probably not where they should be and could be. So I appreciate that when we hear that from Nath Harkness, the coach of the Warners Bay Bulldogs. It means, that's the reason why he's got his side up and about, I think, is because he's got, very fair assessments on the way of things. But great to see the excavator of 6-pointers just getting himself on the bag rating list. It was a matter of time, I thought. And that's ominous signs for other clubs. I think that Mark Dignam is about to run into some form equal to the likes of Zach Munns and Zach Lauritsen and Seb Thomas and the Devrils, and mate, they are all, and Tom Gardner, brilliant in the middle there. So they are just shaping up nicely at the right time of year, aren't they?
Yeah, and I've heard Mark Dignam is putting some real thought and work on the training track on the goal celebrations for the next time he's on Bar TV, Chop. So I've
heard there's going to be a different celebration for every goal that he kicks. So we look forward to that. I think we got an epic clash between them and Terrigal in round 14. So can't wait for that. Is that right? Am I allowed to announce that? Am I too early with that?
With that, so yeah, absolutely, no, not a problem at all. I reckon Scoop's worth it.
Yeah, let's get it out there. Get people ready, because that's, especially after we watch the results this week, that's going to be one worth watching. But of course, we'll get through round 13 before we worry about round 14.
Yeah, excellent, mate, excellent. So look, Terrigal Avoca, 16 goals, 21, defeated Killarney Vale 1-6-12. That's the ultimate revenge, Chop. They were in front by 72 points at halftime. Yeah. Real revenge for the Terrigal Avoca Panthers. Interestingly, though, mate, there were only 5 goals kicked after half time. So, so, I mean, Terrigal Avoca kicked them all. But, I found that interesting in the play-by-play that they kicked 11 goals to halftime and only managed to kick 5 goals after that. Maybe they took the foot off the pedal. Maybe they kicked a lot of behinds. We weren't at the game, so we're not sure. But Henry Devine and Mackenzie Leecroft were best for Terrigal Avoca, and you called Mitch Price coming back in the last few weeks, and he kicked 4 goals in his first game back. Noah Cookman 3, and Alec Walters is doing really nicely in the goal kicking, Chop. He keeps getting a few every week, and he got 2 himself.
Lil L, or Big Red, whatever you want to call him, he's having a breakout year. They've been waiting for it over there at Terrigal Avoca Panthers, and he's arrived on the scene. Interestingly, no Harrison Pitt, and they still managed to pump Killarney Vale Bombers by that much. That would have been a spanner in the works for the Bombers, because they rightly so, they should be holding out a lot of hope that they might be able to just sneak their way into finals. They've got a side that's capable of it, but it seems one giant wasn't amongst them this week, and it made all the difference, didn't it? But I fail to believe that there was that much difference just by having Daniel Lloyd in the side. I really do. I'd like to know. I'll have a closer look and see what the turnaround of players was from one week to the next, but that just doesn't calculate, does it? And if anything, it probably suggests just how powerful or what might be in reserve for the Terrigal Avoca Panthers. I mean, we'll see Harrison Pitt back in their lineup before the end of this season, and he'll be back for finals, if not before. And that makes them a very, very tough side to match up against. All of a sudden, they've got a forward line that is equal to what Warners Bay are producing at the moment and in Newcastle City. So a little bit of a similar sort of situation where we've got three sides eclipsing everybody up the top end. And I think Terrigal finding, as much as they're having real troubles with injuries at the moment, they've had massive turnover of personnel in the last 4 weeks. Their frontliners and their core groups are just epic. And Kurt Fleming having one of his best years ever this year.
Yeah, he's been a good player this year, Kurt. Wondering what he looks like in terms of Elliot Davey permutations as we come to the end of the year. It's a wonderful acknowledgement of a great season, the Elliot Davey medal. Best on ground, to see best in the competition for the season in the AFL Hunter Central Coast. So
it would be a rightful thing for Kurt Fleming to get one in the twilight of his career. I know he struggled a little bit with injury and having his body in good shape in recent years, but he's always been just a wonderful contributor, great spirited, soulful footballer. And to see him up amongst Terrigal's very best again, he's got half a dozen club best and fairest, and I know he's always polled well in the Elliot Davies in the past. He's a recognisable player too, and when he's the couple of games that we've seen so far of them, he's been just tremendous. So he's leading the charge. He's got plenty of times got his name in the six, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's a front runner there at all.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I'd back him in as not back him in personally, but I'd back the fact that if he got it, he'd be a very worthy winner. He's a tremendous.
Yeah, he would.
I remember him very fondly in my days on the ground, and he was just a very fair, hard, tough player, and he's still doing it now. I remember the game against Killarney Bay; he was superb. So hopefully,
he's a soul spiritual leader there at the club too. You know, he's just such a likable, lovely, caring bloke as well. And a fierce competitor when he's on there. Him and Jack Grimman are just absolute bulls in the midfield there.
Yeah, great midfield. We'll jump across to the third game of the four in round 12. Newcastle City, 14 goals, 12.96 to the entrance, 3-3-21. Not a lot really to say in this one, Chop, apart from after half-time, it was pretty much one-way traffic. Yep. Tractor came back in and kicked 3 goals. Jordan Deere and Ethan Marr got 3 as well. For the entrance, Baday Bay, Max Otiiwi and Pat Murphy were the best on for them. So it's good signs. I mean, look, when you're getting a 17, 18-year-old in the best players for a senior club, it's good signs for the club, isn't it?
Max Otiiwi, the big otter, he is going to be something special. He's capable of going elsewhere and playing a much higher ceiling of football. There's no doubt about that. I've known him since about under 15s, and he's only just barely 17 now, I think. He's taken some big scalps this year. I know they've gotten a touch up most weeks, the entrance Baday Bay, but they're still growing and building. And I don't think that's the worst result in the world. I know it's a 12-goal deficit or something in the end, and they struggled. They didn't score one in the last quarter, I think. But that's where the entrance Baday Bay are at the moment. Until they stabilise that senior squad, they're going to play 3 good, fairly competitive quarters, and they'll probably fall off in one of them somewhere along the line. Until they stabilise, but they've got a raft of great players, a raft of good juniors coming through, and they're going to get better each week. I think the club's going along pretty good. Newcastle and coming up against Newcastle City too. This is a time we got Jordan Deere back in the side, the big tractor. We haven't seen too much of him this year, but can't wait to catch him in the coming weeks. But there would be on the roll. Crawford would start to get them on the roll towards their final sit campaign now too. So for them to get up by 74 points, it's a good win, very healthy win. But I reckon they will they'll steamroll from this point on, and the entrance Batter Bay shouldn't be too disappointed with that, I wouldn't imagine.
No, and like you said, Mitch Crawford have the boys really starting to gear up for finals, and good coaches do that. Good sides do it too. They build and they have a bit of a plateau in the middle, and just like a good athlete, they taper off for the finals, and I reckon that's what they're starting to do right now. 75 points, 72 points, massive win. You know, depending on the effort they put in, it might be trying new things and give their young guys opportunities to get a game or two. So, yeah, massive win for them. Our match it around, Chop. Gee, it was an interesting game. Nelson Bay versus Maitland and Max Macmahon. It was really interesting going there without a grandstand, and I can't wait to be there in next year, especially. I know Hugh Matheson told us February 2026 is the predicted date of opening, but it was a really different experience being at Max Macmahon Oval with no stand. And look, Maitland came to play. For mine, Corey, they were in the match at halftime, 6-4, and on paper it looked like a dominant. It was 6-4 after halftime, and on paper it looks like a dominant win to Nelson Bay. But when you watch the game, Maitland were in they were in a lot of contests on the ground. They had numbers around the football. They get the ball up forward, and they had no real target to kick to. They'd spray it wide, inaccurate kicking. Yep. I mean, it goes without saying that the old saying I used to get as a kid, mate, was bad kicking is bad football. Nelson Bay, 14 goals, 892. Maitland, 6-14-50. And after halftime, before halftime was 8-4 to 2-7. And it tells you all you need to know about the story of that game, to be perfectly honest. The inaccurate kickings probably cost Maitland an opportunity in this game. But in saying that, they were the better team after halftime and deserved the win. And, you know, you're really – I love that post today. I think it was today or yesterday, the one about Billy Barton. He's got himself back-to-back bags, 5 goals. Mitch Hall and Wade Blackburn, 3 each. Now, Wade Blackburn, 2-time bar raiser. I told Emily today, she was like, yep, 2 bar raisers. Don't like handing out 2 vouchers, but you can't help it when the guy's that good. Maitland were best served by Riley Newstead, who I reckon, honestly, if he wasn't the best on ground, he would have to be in the second or third best on ground. He did an absolute ton of work. And Zach Stewart, who you also highlighted this week, Chop, in your socials, whose clearance work was just brilliant. It was superb on Saturday. What do you reckon of that game, mate? I loved the way Nelson Bay go about it. The way they go back to front is just brilliant. I think Wade Blackburn and Sean McGrath, the way they've coached the side is excellent. And the way they go from back to front is really lightning speed. And if you don't mark them, they can do it in an instant. You're 2 goals down, 3 goals down. But, yeah, look, they were the better team. But I think Maitland could hang their hat on that because I thought they played all right.
Yeah, well, not a great deal to add to that, actually, Ash. I agree with it all. No Ryland Hoff, but he did his hamstring the week before in the dying minutes of the game, and that proved to be massive in the grand scheme of things. I mean, 20 scoring shots to 22. That's good numbers. Nelson Bay with the 22. But that's good numbers for both of those sides, and that's like the sort of scoring shots to win you a game of Black Diamond footy. But when you're putting that many of them the wrong side of the big sticks, unfortunately, it won't win you a game. They just lack the spearhead, Maitland. The clearance count, as it turned out, I went back and watched the game and did that. I think there was 20, 22 or 24 clearances, and Nelson Bay only won 4 centre clearances for the day. Zach Stewart, by his own hand or boot, was responsible for 10 of them outright, and Riley Newstead another 4 or 5 himself, I think. So, and then there was one Inglis had one, a really definitive one. They were outstanding in the centre clearances, but you just see it every single time. The half-back line of Nelson Bay, which is very, very accomplished, their defensive six were able to just repel the ball relatively quickly, and with Big Billy Barton up the other end more often than not with his bag, and then another, what is it, 3 or 4 to Mitch Hall. They've got 2 very capable goal kickers, plus one of the greatest blokes in the world playing halfback, and just chiming in for another 3 miraculous goals himself. Wade Blackburn, 2 of his goals were just electric. When you've got that, you've got some firepower, and they were just able to repel everything that the young Maitland side were just not able to lock it down when they went forward. But they've got heaps to look forward to. Ryan Hoffman will be back in that side next year. He'll be bigger and stronger again next year. They'll probably get some, they should really work hard to get another spearhead in the off season, Maitland, and just try and find someone to help work as a foil to Hoffman up there, because they've got capable goalkeepers, DJ Stewart and players like that, but they need a key up there to sort of straighten them up a little bit. Do you know what I mean? So Allen was quite good. Lachlan Allen, I think, for Maitland, he was impressive. He played well. For the Nelson Bay Marlins, well, the ones you said, also the Blythes are very capable, aren't they? In all around the ground, they've got a Blythe just about in every line out there, pretty much doing good work. So yeah, no, I think Nelson Bay are going to be the 4th side in the finals, and what I'm glad to say is that that'll be a worthy result too. After seeing 2 of their games, if they make the finals, good on them. I was a bit critical of them early on in the year, especially coming into the season. 3 games into it, I think they should have been there from the start. But now that I've had to see what they're all about, they've got a good vibe and a good atmosphere about them. They were worthy winners on the weekend. They were able to repel all those centre clearances and get the win. So yeah, no, I've become a fan of Nelson Bay, their playing group, that's for sure, in recent weeks.
Yeah, perfectly said, mate. And bit tight at the top at the end of round 12. Newcastle City lead it at the moment with 83% match ratio. Warners Bay 81%. Terrigal probably a game behind on 72%. Nelson Bay 62%. And then that's the top 4. And it drops off after that. Killarney Vale are 36, Cardiff 33. Maitland and the entrance Bateau Bay are probably planning their Mad Monday celebrations, I reckon, at 18 and 16 respectively. But in the goal-kicking race, Harrison Pitt, I don't think he's going to stay there for too much longer, Chop, being if the rumours are true that he's gone away for the remainder of the season. But he's in front at the moment on 36. The Munzilla's on 31. Alec Walters has crept into 3rd place on 28 goals.
Yeah, I think he's been 3rd place for a couple of weeks now, Alec, and he just keeps chiming away with a couple. So, very exciting. The bag race is good, really exciting. I was saying before, 16 individual goal kickers have kicked the bag this year, 26 bags all up in the men's competition. It's just raining goals there. The big tractor, he'll make a move between now. Like, he's 10 off the pace now with 5 rounds to go. He can kick 2 goals a week easily. And then some. Zach Munns, he's got a lot of goal kickers in his side now, so hopefully he can continue on with his blistering season. And look, don't count Brandon Lloyd. They're going to work hard to try and make finals. If they make a real push, then it's going to rely on him kicking lots of goals if they're going to make finals. And make no mistake, the Bombers are going to do everything they can to get in there. So Brandon Lloyd missed out by 1 goal or something last year. He just got picked in the last round for the Goolagong. So not that he's out for individual awards or anything like that, but he'll make a good press. He's a known goal kicker. What excites me is that whole top 10 is just wicked, isn't it? Like, you've got Mark Dignam and Billy Barton in that top 10 now, and we've seen what they just did on the weekend. There's no reason why they can't make up lazy 15 goals between now and the end of the season, and that's just a bag every week. So if they kick a bag every week, which if Billy Barton had Bar TV coverage every week, he'd probably win it. But we'll get, and then of course Mitch Crawford, who's a former Goolagong Trophy winner as well, 1 behind them. So your top 8 in particular, we probably won't see too many more from Ryland, who rounds out the top 10. Ryland Hoffman, his hamstring's probably done him for the year, and Mitch Hall is sort of second fiddle to Billy Barton at the moment, but he's kicked a bag through the course of the year as well. So that top 10 is absolutely epic, and anyone, I believe, in the top 8 can potentially win the Goolagong. So I watch that so closely. I love the goal kicking ratio. Yeah, I love the bags. I love seeing a bag get kicked every week. It gets me excited. So
Yeah, so look, for mine, well, obviously Pity won't get it, but I reckon it's out of Zach Munns, Walters, Deer, and possibly Brandon Lloyd, but they've got to win games, Kalani Vale, for him to go up the ladder. And when you look at it,
they got to get the ball to him.
Yeah, they've just got to get it to him. That's it.
He needs supply. He needs supply. He'll kick the goals. He just needs supply.
100%. I could not agree with you more, to be honest. But there's only 6 goals between the second and fifth place goal kickers. I mean, obviously, if you take Pity out of it, there's only 6 goals between second and fifth. And then Big Dib and Billy Barton are 10 goals back. But I don't think they can make that up. But I think definitely second through to fifth. Munns, Walters.
Did you hear that, Dig and BB Gun? Did you hear that? Ash says he doesn't think you can do it. So
I love you, boys. I do love you, boys, I can tell you. I do love you.
I back you in all the way. So kick bags.
No, I do love you, boys. I think you're terrific. But 10 goals back with 5 games to go is going to be a tough ask, I reckon. All right, we might rip into the previews for round 13. Chop, Warners Bay versus Maitland. We've been really treated to some stats from Andy Baldwin this week, mate. The last win that Maitland had against Warners Bay was round 16, 2023. They beat them at Fagan over by 12 points. Warners Bay have the upper hand in the head-to-head by 13 games to 3. Mate, I think Warners Bay are in red-hot form, and they're not going to stop now. They've got home ground advantage, and the advantage is going to be huge. They want to put the percentage on coming into finals because I reckon they are a genuine top 2 possibility. The only issue for Warners Bay is they've got to play the Terrigal-Avoca, Newcastle City, and Nelson Bay. So they've got to get the wins there. They've got Maitland this week, and they've got Kalani Vale 2 rounds from now. But in between that, they've got Terrigal-Avoca next week, and then in 2 rounds' time, in the last 2 rounds of the year, got City and Nelson Bay. I think they're going to do this quite easily. But for Adrian Hoffman's men, the Maitland boys, I think for them, turn up, compete, give their best, and I think they'll do themselves proud. They did themselves proud, I thought, last week. But for mine, I think Warners Bay will win by about 6 or 7 goals.
Yeah, I think so. I think Warners Bay are the best that we've ever seen. We saw some footage this week of the last time they won a premiership in this competition. It was 1993 or something, wasn't it? 96 or so. It was more than 20 years, 30 years ago, nearly, that they won one. So I don't remember them being dominant like that. I wasn't even born. So, but I am now, and I'm enjoying what they're doing at the moment, Warners Bay. I've got a little bit of a soft spot for them. And that should suit them, playing the other top 3 sides, potentially all the ones that could potentially make finals with them. They'll be playing them in the next 4 or 5 weeks. So they'll get a good read and a good measure on every one of them as they go into the finals. And anybody who competes well in a final series, they should be able to compete very well against all their potential finalists. And that is the best lead up to the finals they can possibly hope for, is to see all of them within the last 4 weeks of the season. So they'll have a good, comfortable win against Maitland this week. Maitland will be competitive, there's no doubt. They always are. Their engine room is, I got to say, between Newstead and Zach Stewart, and their ruckman Selwich. Is it Max Selwich?
He's good.
Who needs to kick a goal, incidentally, but he was outstanding in the ruck, giving great supply to his midfielders, and they've got, and then I don't know if Xavier Russell's back at that side this week or not, but just having a quick squiz through it. Billy Ellis, it looks like Billy Ellis is in the side, which is great. He was very exciting a few weeks ago, and he's come back for another game. He can kick a goal. There's no doubt about that. Jared Inglis is a great footballer. He's a bit of an unsung. Charlie Walker is also a great contributor in the midfield. They're going to be very competitive in the midfield. Their forward line is obviously the same, just a little bit touch and go, and that's what will let them down a little bit, I think. Although, maybe McPhee can kick really straight. He got to keep his pants on, so the pressure's off now. He kicked a goal last week, got that monkey off his back. Maybe he might kick a bag and do something special. But there's lots to look forward to for Maitland in the future. There's no doubt they're just going to keep them all together. Warners Bay have virtually got almost the same 22 going out on the field every week for the last few weeks. There's very small turnover of players, which is great news for Nathan Harkness and the boys there. So if they can keep that up rolling into the finals, that's going to hold them in really good stead. So, yeah, I tend to agree. It'll be a 6 to 8 goal win to Warners Bay, but Maitland will play a lot better than what the scoreboard will show.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you, mate. The second game we've got is Cardiff, and actually I forgot to mention the big in for Warners Bay this weekend. Playing his first game for the club for a while, signed before the deadline from the North Albury Football Club in probably the best competition in New South Wales outside of Sydney. Liam Leschke has played top-tier footy for the last 2 years for North Albury in the Ovens and Murray competition.
He's a former player for Warners Bay.
He's a former player of
Yeah.
Warners Bay.
Do you know what, Ash?
How good's that?
He was in the side with the last game that I coached Gosford before COVID. He was in that side way back then. So he's found his way home, and that is great news to know that he's disappeared and gone and got that wealth of experience and will come back at exactly the right time. What a pickup. That's amazing.
That is an absolute brilliant pickup. Yep. They've got a few out this week, but I know that Nathan Harkness, who I believe is trying to watch us live, he's very, very confident. So it's great to see that they can go into each game knowing that or believing they can win every week. It's great. And it's great for the club. It's a wonderful, wonderful time to be at Warners Bay.
Last week, you weren't with us last week on the grill, but I spoke about that in round 9. Gosford and Warners Bay played, I think, at Adelaide Street Oval, if I'm not mistaken. It was the last game that Gosford played in Black Diamond, could be the last game they'll ever play in Black Diamond. But it was an interesting day because it was COVID kicked in and the season was all over for the rest of it. Warners Bay, incidentally, went on to finish, I think, 3rd that year or somewhere thereabouts, and we're looking really good through the course of it. But there are 14 players, I think, that I recognise on that list of that day that I think have played first grade at some stage, if not regular contributors to the first grade side now. So that's 4 and a bit years down the track, and Nathan Harkness has kept the bulk of that group together, and all of those young fellas from back then in 2009, which incidentally Gosford beat them that day, which was probably against the grain of things. These kept them all together, and that's the key to where they're at right now, and that is such a thing for all clubs to pay attention to. If you can do whatever you can to keep those players together like that, they will eventually deliver you a premiership. There's no doubt. All the Munns and Seb Thomas and the Devils, they're all in that side, and they're still there now getting the job done. And that's why I believe that they've got the best chance ever to be able to, make themselves some history this year.
Yeah, agree, mate. We'll move on to the next game with Cardiff and Terrigal Avoca. Terrigal Avoca head-to-head 10-7 against Cardiff. They've played at Pasterfield 7 times for 4 wins, so they don't mind the field. Interestingly, we had a bit of a chat online during the week. Cardiff have a 67% win ratio at Pasterfield. I reckon that I honestly thought it would have been higher than that, but that's where it is. I think Terrigal need this win to give themselves a chance of a top 2 finish. Terrigal Avoca's last 5 games at Cardiff, Warners Bay next week, Maitland in round 15, Nelson Bay round 16, Newcastle City round 17. So their run home is okay, but they're still got to play the 3 sides amongst that top 4 in the last 5 games. Cardiff, they've got to play. They've probably got the hardest draw out of the, probably, I wouldn't say the hardest draw, but one of them. They've got Terrigal Avoca this week, Warners Bay next week, Newcastle City the week, not Warners Bay next week. I had that one incorrect. Sorry, guys. Newcastle City the week after that, the entrance Bateau Bay, and then Maitland. And basically, any more losses for them, and it's pretty much fatal. I think their season in terms of making the finals ends this week. I think Terrigal Avoca are just going to be too hungry. They'll win this one, probably about 3 to 4 goals in my opinion. Chop. We want to see a competitive Cardiff because it is good for our game to see a side like that. I'll reiterate their draw because I've just fixed it. They got Terrigal Avoca this week. They play the entrance Bateau Bay at home away next week. City the week after that. The entrance Bateau Bay in round 16 and Maitland round 17. So they've got to win those three, the Entrance Bateau Bay games and Maitland. And they've got to I reckon they've just got to hope they maybe pick one of those Terrigal Avoca Newcastle City games and they might make finals. Whereas Nelson Bay have got Newcastle City this week, Killarney Vale, the Entrance Bateau Bay 14-15. And then their last two games are Terrigal Avoca Warners Bay. So it's going to be a tight race. I think if they lose this week, it might be it.
No, I think the season was over a couple of weeks ago, to be honest. And the Cardiff boys won't be pleased with me saying that. But I hung in there with them for, the bulk of the season and thinking they were going to turn it around. They had a little run for a little bit there. And then they just haven't looked like they've even campaigned, to be honest. I didn't think they looked like they were working hard enough against the Nelson Bay game that we got to see, the result last week. I mean, if they're going to even have a chance to make the finals, they've got to put in better performances than what we've seen in the last 2 weeks, to be fair. And I don't know if it's the playing group just sort of may feel it's a bit out of reach, but if it's that close, they've got to be doing better performances than what we've seen, as far as I'm concerned. I think they're just going to play out the year. They're going to restructure and then try and see if they can get some stability in their group, perhaps for 2026. It's sad. It's disappointing because they climbed so high over the last 3 seasons, and they really did come from a fair way back in the field back in 2020 to becoming a grand finalist in 2024. So I was really hoping to see really great things. I thought they were the next big front runner in our competition, there's no doubt. But there's performances the last 2 weeks are just not from a side that think they have a sniff at finals. And Terrigal, on the other hand, are just finding gears no matter who they've got in their side. So, and that's what they do at this time of year. So I think tomorrow could be a rout, to be honest. Might not be, but I think it could be a rout. Terrigal are in. We're going to play finals, and we want to play in Cardiff spot for the grand final this year. They're in that type of form. They're hungry and they're prowling, and I think they just might pluck the feathers out of the Hawks this week, unfortunately.
Yeah, good call, mate. Good call. Interesting match this week. Newcastle, next one, Newcastle City versus Nelson Bay. I got a bit to sort of say on this one, just to fill it in and give it a bit of a pad. I've gone back through the history books, Chop, and the last time Nelson Bay defeated Newcastle City was the first semi-final 2017 at Dick Burwell Oval. And on that occasion, they beat Newcastle City by a point, 48-47. And there's you can find the clip on Bar TV Sports on YouTube of that game. And there was a really, some would say controversial as an umpire. I reckon it was 110% spot on. And one of the best guys we've ever had umpire, Pat Lally, had the guts to make the decision. Let's say it that way. With Courtney Knight pushing a Nelson Bay player in the back and then kicking the goal, but Pat Lally was there and he goes, yeah, free kick in the back all day long. So they would have won the game if it wasn't a free kick chop, Newcastle City, but Nelson Bay won that by a point. And at this stage right now, there are still 6 players that are playing from that match over nearly 10 years ago on the team. Nelson Bay have Alec Clark, Billy Barton, Jaden Reimer and Adam Grinier. And Newcastle City have Jackson Crawford, and we think it might be a 17 or 16-year-old Max Quinlan that would have played that afternoon.
Big Q, Agent Q.
Yeah, the Big Q. Yeah, it's great. It was really – I had a bit of time to look over it yesterday, and I thought, goodness gracious, that's great. 6 players from, all that way back.
That's not a bad 6. That's not a bad 6 players to still have in your.
Yeah, it is. It is. It also tells you though.
In your fold.
Yeah, it also tells you just how much teams turn over, isn't it, in such a short space? I was really interested in it. But looking at the game, look, City were tested by Nelson Bay last time, but I think they'll be ready for the way Nelson Bay played this time. They've probably scouted them a bit more. They had a chance to watch them on Bar TV. They've had a chance to look at the footage. I thought Nelson Bay were brilliant last week. They moved the ball really well from back to front. I think they're one of the best back to front teams in terms of the way they rebound out of defence. They're really hard at the ball and good in close. they're going to have to be at their absolute best on Saturday to beat Newcastle City, who I still think are the best team in the comp. I know other teams won't agree, but I still think City are the best at this stage on paper and what they've shown. If they want to get close to Nelson Bay, if they want to get close to City Nelson Bay, they're going to have to be their absolute best. Newcastle City will want to lock in the double chance really quickly, hopefully do it with a few games to go. I think if Nelson Bay win this weekend, they'll be in the top 4 for mine with 4 games to go. Interestingly, Newcastle City have Nelson Bay this week, then Maitland and Cardiff in the next 2 weeks, and then they finish off with Warners Bay, Terrigal, Avoca. Nelson Bay have Newcastle City, obviously, this week. Then they've got Killarney Vale, the entrance, Bateau Bay, and then they finish off with the Terrigal, Avoca and Warners Bay games. So, look, for mine, Newcastle win this by 6 goals, probably more. It's a great test for both sides. It's a really good test for Wade Blackburn and Sean McGrath's sides to see just how well they're going and how they're tracking for the last few matches.
Yeah, well, yeah, this will let them see how far off the pace they are in terms of how far they can go into the final series in September. They've been impressive, Nelson Bay, the Marlins. What I like is that they keep the ball alive. They draw players to them. They're quite happy to wear the tackle. They're quite happy to wear the physicality, but they just get that hand pass out and they release the ball and keep it alive. And that's how they managed to sort of keep the ball in their forward line and finish off with the goal in the end. They were significant winners last week, despite being so heavily beaten from the centre clearances. That's a bit of a worry because you don't want to have to always be loading up from half back all the time, even if you've got Wade Blackburn and the likes down there to do that, especially when you come up against the top side in the competition who've got just firepower deluxe in the forward line, and they're just taking turns on who's going to kick all the goals each week, Newcastle City at the moment. Even their fullbacks coming down and chiming in for a goal here and there, with Nomak keeping his pants on from a couple of weeks ago. So he kicked his goal for the season. But Agent Q, incidentally, mate, you might, it's getting close to that time of the year, mate. You might want to get up forward and get yourself a goal this weekend if you can. But that aside, they're a capable side. They are easily the 4th best side in the competition at the moment. They are on their own in that they are just below the pace of the top 3 sides. But that doesn't mean that they can't close that gap, because their top 4 or 5 players are epic, as good as they get in the competition. And if they can just find a way to bring up that sort of the second tier of players to come up and get excited, get as enthusiastic about their footy as Billy Barton looks every time he touches the ball. All right. And if they can do that, because I've got to say, enthusiasm and that belief and that momentum has a huge part to play when it comes to finals, especially when you're playing against a side as accomplished as Newcastle City. Jack Woodhams is supposed to be coming back this week, but way back at the beginning of the year when Nelson Bay weren't in Cup, I think he booked a trip away. So he's enjoying one more week off before we see the Sheriff rise back into the ranks of the Newcastle City Blues, which is, I'm very much looking forward to that. We've been a bit robbed of his 6 shooters in recent times, but he'll be back, and that'll just make Newcastle City. Yeah, that's it. And this one. That'll just make Newcastle City all the more powerful. But I don't know. The City Blues always feel like they're a bit tempered at this time of year for me. Like, instead of be going out, like where Terrigal feels like they're going out gung-ho and just giving it everything to do whatever they can, I feel like there's a little bit more of a controlled burn. Not to say that Terrigal aren't controlled, but a little more of a controlled burn as they head towards the finals, which is great because it's a different type of a style, and then they'll burst out once the finals come. But it'll be interesting. I think they'll take care of Nelson Bay this week. I don't know. I'd like to see a great performance by Nelson Bay. I'd like to say let them give us a sniff that they might even be a chance of going deep into the finals. At the moment, I feel like they'll go out first week of finals comfortably. I'd like to see them put in a performance this week, which doesn't make me feel like that's quite so certain, if you know what I mean. So
yeah, I think maybe what you're saying, mate.
Yeah, maybe 8 goals. Maybe it's between 5 and 8 goals. I know that's a bit random and open-ended, but
it's actually
I think that's where it's at.
No, I think it's a good tip, mate. And I like what you said. It's the fact that I think they need to show a bit of competitiveness this weekend against a top 3 side. to give us a bit of a hope that they might get through the second round. I wonder who they would like to play if they make finals. It'll be interesting to hear from Wade or Sean who they would like to get a crack at in the first week of the final, should they make it. I'd be really interested.
I bet it'd be Warners Bay.
Line up best against.
Only because not only do they have the closest result against Warners Bay, but also Warners Bay are still, like, they would still look to other clubs like the most vulnerable because of the lack of finals experience, or Terrigal and Newcastle have played almost every grand final, or 80% of the grand finals since 2012. So the sides, just as clubs, there's an aura about those clubs that they know what they're doing in September, and they just managed to somehow get the job done. But I would suggest that, so you'd want to play Warners Bay, which if you put some pressure on them, hopefully you might be able to, make them stumble. I don't think they're going to do that this year, Warners Bay, incidentally. But as a club looking at which is the one most likely we're going to be most competitive against, I bet that would be where it would be.
Nah, perfect, mate.
Sure.
Perfect. No worries. We're up to the last game in terms of what we're reviewing, and it's the big Bar TV match around this week, Corey. 2:30 p.m. at Adelaide Street Oval, Killarney Vale versus the entrance Bateau Bay. Make sure you join us wherever you are around Australia, New South Wales. Doesn't matter where you are, just get on to bartvsports.com.au, the Kings of Live Stream. Click on the link for the AFL and watch two really good sides on the Central Coast do battle in the AFL Hunters Central Coast match around. In terms of a head-to-head, Killarney Vale are 4-1 over the entrance Bateau Bay. And we were talking about goal kickers about 5 or 10 minutes ago, Chop. Brandon Lloyd loves the entrance Bateau Bay. He's kicked 13 goals in 4 games against them, and he'll definitely be one of the keys to victory against the Bombers, for the Bombers on Old Boys Day, and look to see him fire. Pat Murphy and the Besley boys are always there for the entrance Bateau Bay, but they need some help from their teammates, who I know will want to spoil the party, the Old Boys party on Saturday at Adelaide Street. For mine, I think Killarney Vale at home are going to be a little bit too strong. They'll win by somewhere between 2 to 5 goals. I've gone for 15 points. We'll see how we go. We'll see where we are at about 4:30 on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah. But the entrance Bateau Bay won't go into this without a hope. That's for sure. Like this is fast becoming a bit of a local derby around here, especially while Killarney Vale aren't quite at that top tier of performance at the moment. So while they're sort of mid-range and mid-table, the entrance Bateau Bay are always going to feel like they've got a good sniff or a good chance. They're always going to look at Killarney Vale like this is a chance. This is one of our realistic chances for a win this year, while as they slowly progress up the ladder. And at the pace that their young players are developing, that's led obviously by Atiwi, and also players like Sam Austin and Liam Pass and Harry Levi, they're just coming along so well. I see Archie Carpenter's in that side as well, another player I've worked with in the past, which is great. Hayden Clark, keep your eye on him. These guys are all just barely into senior football and have really promised an awful a lot of positivity for the future of the entrance Bateau Bay. I want to give a little nod to a fella named Sam Hughes, who I coached for quite a number of years in juniors, in the under-17s. He was in the same age group as Talon Hopper, he's arguably one of the best in their top 3 players at the entrance Bateau Bay this year, and really playing into himself, holding his position down in the midfield and just killing it. He's got a younger brother named Nathan, who's also just a star on the rise. So all of this adds up to good things for the entrance Bateau Bay if they can keep them all together and do what we were talking about with Warners Bay, a few years ago. If they're all together in 5 years' time, or 3 or 4 years' time, they're going to be finals contenders. There's no doubt about that, because they'll attract bigger and better players to the club as well. They're under some good guidance there with players like Scotty Reid and Pat Murph and the Besleys. So I don't think they're without a shot here tomorrow. I want to see Killarney Vale go everything in, because they have a sniff of playing finals at the moment. And like Cardiff, they need to do better in the performances. They were insipid last week against Terrigal Avoca, and I don't know what happened there. There's no rhyme or reason for it. But if they even want us to even a little bit say, go KV, we want to see you in the finals, and do the right thing by their coach Shaq, for instance. I've got to say, if you're going to do it for anyone, do it for your coach, because mate, he just he does anything for his players. He's a wonderful guy, a wonderful coach. So do it for Shaq. But they need to have a convincing win if they're going to convince us that they belong in the top 4. Otherwise, as far as I'm concerned, the top 4's decided. So I don't know which way it's going to. I don't know by how much, Ash, but I think Killarney Vale will win it probably by 4 goals. But I wouldn't be surprised if it goes the opposite way. But if KV are going to get up, then give it everything you've got and make us feel like you guys could earn a spot in that top 4.
I'll throw something else at you, mate. I'll throw one thing at you before we finish off. This is Killarney Vale's run home. The entrance Bateau Bay this week, Nelson Bay next week, Warners Bay round 15, Maitland round 16, the entrance Bateau Bay round 17.
That's right.
This is Cardiff's run home. Cardiff's run home, Terrigal Avoca, the entrance Bateau Bay round 14, Newcastle City 15, the entrance Bateau Bay round 16, Maitland round 17. Which one of those 2 sides has the better run?
Well,
would you rather play?
I think Killarney Vale just.
Or Nelson Bay and Warners Bay?
I think Killarney Vale got the better run home, narrowly. Yeah. So and look, what that makes me think of more than anything is of the entrance Bateau Bay and how much they can have an impact on the final 4. Like, they can really make something of themselves if they play well here. I mean, this is why I said that about Killarney Vale, Ash, is because you look at your run home, you've got a better run home than Nelson Bay, way better. So there is real likelihood that if you play your ass off, come together as a club, and one of the bigger, stronger clubs in the competition, if you come together as a club, get behind your coach, you guys could sneak into that top 4, and then you don't know what's going to happen. But they've got to just desperately want it. They've got to want it. And they're good boys out at Killarney Vale. Got a lot of good friends out there. I really like to see them do everything they can to get themselves a spot in the finals. If they don't deserve the gift of that run home. Simple as that.
Fair call, mate. Fair call. For what it's worth, I don't think the top 4 is going to change. But if it changes, my pick's Killarney Vale to make it. Just purely and simply on the draw. And they've got, I mean, Cardiff and Killarney Vale have got the same 2 sides swapped over in the last 2 games. But I think they're going to have a tough time beating the Panthers and City. Whereas Killarney Vale possibly have a chance against Nelson Bay. I don't think they'll beat Warners Bay, but I reckon they win 3 out of the last 4, possibly 4 out of the 3 out of the last 5, possibly 4 out of the last 5, with a somewhat surprise win against Nelson Bay. That almost puts them in the finals. But
do you know what?
Once again, I've got to go to the calculator, do all the
you're right.
Stuff.
But that would be a great way, because if they do what they've got to do to try and get into the finals, it'll be how they perform against each other in that last game that they have against each other that'll decide their spot. And what I love most of all, that 4th spot is going to be duked out every single week by the sides that want it the most. So, for instance, if Killarney Vale have a great game and have a good win this weekend, then they survive till next week. And then they've got to duke it out again against whoever they are until they come up against each other. Same with Cardiff. It's a week by week, a week by week presentation, basically. Proposition. That's right. Yeah. And if they don't give it everything they've got, they don't deserve to be in the finals, and they drop out of the race. And I love that. And the best part is Maitland and the entrance Bateau Bay will play a part in it. So it's good things.
Mate. Well, I reckon that's about it, mate. We've got one. I've got one more thing to say. You need to join Corey, myself, and our mystery cameraman this week at Adelaide Street Oval, 12:30 for the women's, 2:30 for the men's at Adelaide Street, one of the best venues in the AFL, Hunter Central Coast. Killarney Vale versus the entrance Bateau Bay. For mine, I think Killarney Vale take both games home with them and enjoy Old Boys Day and Old Girls Day. But be with us wherever you are, on your laptop, your TV, your phone, or anything that can connect to a TV or a stream. Get with us for the Kings Alive stream from 12:30. 2 big games at Adelaide Street. Corey and myself will be with you. Chop, I'm looking very much forward to catching up with you tomorrow. It's going to be a wonderful day at Adelaide Street.
Oh, mate, Saturday's my favourite day of the week. Absolutely. I love footy Saturday. Every other day doesn't matter day. I just live for Saturday. That rhymes. What a fun time.
That's absolutely, mate. We look forward to seeing more bag raiders, best on ground and bar raisers on Saturday. Join us on Bar TV Sports. But for now, for On the Grill, thanks again, Chop. Shane, happy birthday to Mrs. Darwin. And we'll be signing off on the stream in just a short moment. But for now, for On the Grill, it's goodbye for now. Thank you, everybody, and have a great evening.
Thanks, Ash. See you.